Hi folks, and welcome back. Today I'm in the MiG-21 on Contention Cold War again, and honestly I have never been so excited about making a video because the sortie you're about to see was probably the single best experience I have ever had in DCS since I started. I don't want to give too much away, so let me quickly explain the setup. The campaign had just restarted after a blue win. My wingman Franko and I decided to spawn in the east at Tupka to defend red FARPs that were being attacked by blue fighters from Palmyra. It was going to be a bit of a long flight, so fuel conservation was definitely important for us. That's pretty much everything you need to know to begin with, but for this video I'm also going to do something a little bit different, and at the end of the video, after all the cockpit action section, I'm also going to show you the Tacview recording of the fight because it sheds a lot of light on what actually happened versus what I thought happened at the time from the cockpit, and it also highlights how thin the line between success and failure can be. So with all that out of the way, let's see what happened on this flight. One more thing to mention, there's a bug in the MiG-21 with the rear view mirror. Basically, if you don't activate it, it shows you images from the last flight you had in DCS. So in this video, if you see a very surprised looking Mi-24 Hind pilot in the rear view mirror, that's the explanation why. Okay, so after takeoff, we followed EWR reports of F4s to the southwest. Initially, there were 3, then EWR said 2, so we assumed that it looked like they were done hitting the FARP and heading back. I'll jump forward now to where the action starts. So now we're somewhere between Palmyra and the red FARP. We can see a single F4 on EWR, so Franko and I decide to commit on this lone guy. We decide we're going to bracket him, so I check left to come at him from one flank while Franko heads directly for him. Right about now, Franko switches on his radar and reports seeing 2 bandits, not 1 like EWR reported. So I punch in my afterburner, switch on my radar, and try to close as quickly as possible. I see that there are in fact 4 bandits, not even 2. So I tell Franko, but he decides he wants to commit, so I also commit to support him. I decide to target the leftmost bandit, thinking that Franko is going to be targeting one of the bandits on the right. So I get him locked up and close to get a tone. Franko then tells me that he's fired a Fox 1 missile, but it didn't connect, so he's going to have to try again. I swear at that time I heard him saying he was going to target a different bandit. I keep closing on my bandit, but then I see a missile trail and my bandit explodes. So already our plan is kind of falling apart because instead of killing 2 bandits at the merge, we both targeted the same guy and only killed 1. Now, at this point, I have no idea where the remaining 3 bandits are. All I know is that I'm high, there's phantoms around, I don't want to catch a sparrow, so I dive to the deck and start a left-hand turn to look for the remaining bandits. Franko, at the meantime, is reporting that he's engaged and he's defending against the bandits. As I come around the circle, I see something, but it's just a parachute from the plane that got shot down. Then I spot some bandits on radar. I lock the furthest one because it's probably going to be easier to lock him than the closer bandits, and then I close to get tone. With the R3R, getting tone isn't enough. You really want to close until it's in the no escape zone. So I close head on and get ready for a missile shot. When I think I'm close enough, I fire off a Fox 1 and thankfully it connects. So splash the second bandit, it's now 2v2. I'm still not sure exactly where the others are, so I continue my left hand turn while I look for them. I can see on radar they're slightly to the left of my nose, so I keep turning in that direction and manage to lock one of them up. It's coming towards me. I wait to fire until he's close enough that the missile won't miss. Fox 1 and splash. At least I thought it was a splash. It looks like he's badly damaged, but I think he's out of the fight. So again, I keep turning to look for the remaining bandit, where it's now 2v1, me and Franko against him. I can see two planes turning around each other, so I keep turning towards them. As I get closer, I can see which one is the F4, and unfortunately he spots me and breaks out and spoils my shot. If he had kept turning, I would have been able to turn behind him. We go into a sort of one circle flow. He seems to realize he's slow. He doesn't want to get into a two circle rate fight. So we go through this. I have a lot more energy than him, so it pays for me to be patient, not to burn all my energy by pulling hard into him. So I'm just going to be patient. We have time and numbers on our side. I think there may be an opportunity here, so I kind of cash in some of my energy by turning in hard into him. I realize then that I might overshoot, so now I've got to manage the situation and avoid overshooting him. So I pull back on the throttle, keep some altitude, and use my vertical motion to try to avoid overshooting him. Now I think there's an opportunity. I plug in the burner and I start pulling around onto his 6. I've got Fox 2 missiles selected. He's very low, he's very slow. I think there should be an opportunity here. And sure enough, I'm pulling him into the HUD. Fox 2 and splash. So there you go, 2v4, and we managed to survive. And honestly, it was exhilarating. Like, best experience I've had in DCS by a long way, and it's not even close. So after that engagement ended, as we were egressing, Franko spotted an F4 taking off on Palmyra. He decided to engage, and while he got the kill, unfortunately the SAMs got him. I could see at least one blue fighter, an F5, chasing me pretty much all the way back to Tabqa, but I was light on fuel and fast. They weren't able to catch me. So yeah, landed safely after the sortie. So now that you've seen what happened in the cockpit, and honestly it was an amazing experience at the time, just being outnumbered, trying to fight like that and coming out on top. I'm going to take you through the Tacview and you'll see what actually happened. In some cases it was a little bit different to what I thought at the time. Plus you'll also see how thin the line between success and failure was, and literally if we had taken one or two different decisions, or the blue fighters had taken one or two different decisions, the whole thing would have ended very, very differently. So we start the Tacview where Franko and I decide to commit on the one F4 that we can see on EWR. We start to split up so we can bracket him. And here we probably have the first mistake where we don't create enough separation between the two of us. I probably should have checked left a little bit more before turning back in. Now you can see what happens is a package of planes takes off from Palmyra, and it's not 4, but it's actually 5 planes that we were up against. Although one F5 decides that we're such a little threat that he decides to continue on his mission. Now what actually happens is Franko and I locked the same bandit on the left, and that's why there was some confusion. We both ended up locking the same guy. I thought Franko would be going for the guy on the right, but that's not the case. Bandits on the right spot us and they turn in, and this is probably the most dangerous moment. I had no eyes on them. All 3 were behind me, and if they had taken the shot, I would have been dead. Possibly they just taken off, they hadn't fenced in, they weren't set up for air to air, and that might be why they didn't take the shot. Now, what happens next is pretty much for me the moment that decided the fight in our favor. As I'm diving, I break to my left, Franko breaks to his right, so we separate, and all three of the blue fighters decide that they will commit on Franko, which leaves me free. And I turn around, starting to look for them. Franko turns hard, breaks into them, avoids a sparrow shot. I'm turning, I spot the parachute. At this point, I keep turning, and that's when I start to pick them up. And the F5 was the furthest, the easiest to lock on radar. The others were a bit close, and because of the way the MiG's radar works, it's a little hard to lock targets that are very close to you, and at least that aren't directly in front of you. Again, get a little bit fortunate that they stay focused on Franko while I head for the F5. F5 turns into me, which works out nicely for the lock I have. Franko is basically fighting for his life there, but doing a good job of defending. I launch my R3R, splash F5. I then continue my turn because I'm not sure where they are. And as I go through my turn, I spot them. Again, Franko is doing a good job with those two F4s. It would have been very easy for him to get shot down, but he defended well and made it hard for them to take any shots. It probably helped that they were heavy on fuel, maybe even ordnance. Not sure if they all jettisoned their ordnance, whereas we were relatively light, having flown quite a long way at this point. So here I've locked up this F4. I'm setting up an R3R shot. And here comes the shot. As I mentioned at the time, he wasn't down, but he looked pretty badly damaged. I continue my turn. You can see that F4 is pretty slow, less than 300 knots. I, on the other hand, am at over 500. I've got good energy. Franko is also quite slow. He's been defending pretty hard. He's had to take some pretty hard turns. He now goes into a two circle with the remaining F4. At this point, I look across, I spot them turning, and I turn in. If the F4 had kept turning with Franko, it would have set him up beautifully for a Fox 2 shot. But he sees me, or somebody in GCI tells him about me, so he breaks off. He thinks about turning in with me, but decides to go one circle again, probably because he's slow. So he didn't think that rating would be the right move. Again, he thought about changing, but he keeps the turn. Again, I've got good energy. I felt like I was turning pretty fast, pretty hard. So I decided not to change things. I just went up a little bit to try to convert some of my speed into potential energy. At this point, I feel like there may be an opportunity, so I cash some of it in. I pull my nose pretty hard towards him, and then I start to think I might get an overshoot, so then I start to pull up a little bit, manage the closure rate. Franko avoids a shot from the F4, and then he pulls his nose round hard and goes for a gunshot. At this point, though, I've got the F4 just above my cockpit. I'm pulling him in hard and setting up nicely for a Fox 2 shot, which is about to come here, and there we go. And yeah, that's how the engagement went. So you saw that essentially what swung it in our favor was the fact that all three of them committed to Franko and left me free. And essentially, I was fortunate that my R3Rs all connected, so I didn't end up wasting any missiles. So every shot I had, I managed to take, which cut the odds down in our favor. Here you can see Franko shooting down the F4 and then getting taken out by the Palmyra SAMs. I then egress from the area, but they respawn, relaunch, and start to come after me. But at this point, I'm doing over 500, so it's hard for them to catch me at this distance. So that's it then, folks. And if you liked what you saw, do check out Contention Cold War. It is an amazing experience. Hopefully I'll see you in the skies. Thanks, and see you in the next video.